All right, let's just dive right in, shall we? We're heading into the strange, unsettling, and absolutely brilliant world of playwright Harold Pinter. We're going to crack open one of his most famous plays, The Birthday Party, to figure out what makes his work so powerful and, so unbelievably creepy.
So just imagine this for a second. It's your birthday party. You're supposed to feel safe, right? Celebrated. But what if that whole atmosphere just curdled? What if the party suddenly felt less like a celebration and more like an interrogation? Well, that's exactly the feeling Pinter drops us into, and it's the mystery we're going to unravel today.
So where does this nightmare begin? Well, it all starts in the most boring, ordinary place you can think of. A quiet, kind of run-down boarding house by the sea. It's run by a couple, Meg and Petey Bowles, and their only lodger is this guy named Stanley. He's a former pianist who really seems to be hiding from something, or someone.
And into this quiet, predictable little world, two men just appear. Out of nowhere, their names are Goldberg and McCann, and they completely shatter the peace of the house. You can just feel the tension ratchet up the second they walk in the door. The threat has officially arrived.
And listen to this. This is how Pinter creates so much menace from just a few simple words. Goldberg says they're there on a little job. It's so vague, so casual, but it just drips with danger, doesn't it? You know right away these guys are not here for a vacation. They represent some kind of powerful, unseen authority.
So, how do we even start to make sense of what's happening? Well, to solve this puzzle, you need to understand a key concept. It's a term that was literally invented to describe Pinter's work, the comedy of menace. This is his signature move.
A critic named Irving Wardle came up with it, and it's just perfect. See, Pinter is a master at blending these funny, totally normal conversations with this creeping, terrifying sense of dread. You'll find yourself laughing at one line, and then feeling a chill run down your spine on the very next one. The humor is just a mask for the horror underneath. And you can see this trap in action right from the beginning. The play opens with Meg fussing over Stanley's breakfast, asking him over and over, "Are the cornflakes nice?" It's so repetitive, so trivial, it feels completely normal. But that's the whole point. Pinter lulls you into this false sense of security, which makes the eventual invasion of fear and violence feel that much more shocking.
Okay, let's look at the next clue, because it builds from here. In Pinter's world, people don't really use language to communicate. Nope. They use it to dominate, to confuse, and to control. Language, and maybe more importantly the lack of language, becomes a weapon.
This is so central to his style that it got its own adjective, Pinteresque. When people talk about something being Pinteresque, they're talking about those famous Pinter pauses. And believe me, these silences are not empty. They are packed with unspoken threats, with tension, with power struggles. What the characters don't say is often way more terrifying than what they do. You see this most clearly in the interrogation scene. Goldberg and McCann just bombard Stanley with this absolute storm of questions. And the questions make no sense. They're contradictory, they're personal, they're political. Their goal isn't to get answers. The goal is to shatter Stanley's reality, to break him down completely, using words as a club.
And you can just watch his mind unravel in stages. First, he tries to fight back, right? He uses his own words to defend himself. But under all that pressure, his language starts to break apart. He can't even form a coherent thought. And then, finally, silence. He's just broken. And that silence isn't just a pause. It's the sound of a person being completely erased.
Now, this incredibly powerful story was turned into a fantastic film back in 1968, directed by the great William Friedkin. And the movie, well, it takes all that psychological terror and just amplifies it using the language of cinema. It gives us even more evidence to work with.
Let's look at one scene in particular, the birthday party itself. It just descends into this chaotic game of blind man's buff. What's supposed to be a fun party game becomes this terrifying exercise in fear and confusion. It perfectly captures the whole vibe of the play.
So pay really close attention to what the camera does here. As Stanley is blindfolded, the camera makes this very deliberate move. It pulls way up high, looking straight down on the entire scene from above. And the effect? Oh, it's instant and it is so powerful. From that high angle, the room doesn't look like a living room anymore. It looks like a cage, a trap. Stanley isn't a guest at a party. He's a lab rat, cornered and totally helpless. The camera literally shows us how trapped he is.
The film is also just brilliant at turning normal, everyday objects into these heavy symbols. Like the toy drum Meg gives Stanley, it's not a fun gift, it becomes a tool for his humiliation. The newspaper, a symbol of an orderly society, gets torn to shreds, and the mirror, it no longer reflects a whole person, just Stanley's shattered, fragmented identity.
So we've looked at the crime scene, we've analyzed the evidence. What's the verdict here? What is this all really about? Well, for a lot of people, the birthday party is a powerful political allegory. It's about conformity and it's about control.
In this reading, Stanley isn't just some random lodger. He represents the artist, the free thinker, the individual who refuses to just fit in. And Goldberg and McCann, they're the agents of the system, sent to crush anyone who dares to be different. His only crime was not playing by their rules.
The play gives us one just heartbreaking tiny moment of resistance. Petey, Meg's quiet husband, sees Stanley being led away, totally broken and silent, and he whispers this desperate plea. It's this tiny spark of defiance, but it's too little, and it's way too late. The system has already won.
And you know, if there was ever any doubt about the politics in this work, Pinter basically gave us the answer key himself. When he accepted the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2005, he gave a speech called Art, Truth, and Politics. And this quote, well, it says it all. Pinter believed that the language used by people in power is a weapon. It's designed to disguise violence, to control reality, to make horrible things sound perfectly reasonable. That whole nonsensical interrogation of Stanley, that is a perfect example of what he's talking about. It's how you break a person and make lies sound like the truth.
And that kind of leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling thought. I mean, Pinter wrote this play back in the 1950s, but his warning about how language can be twisted to hide power, it feels more relevant now than ever. Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where do we see that exact same thing happening today?